Well, it's good to be back. That's right. NATPE is back, but we're not in Miami. We're actually in Los Angeles, Hollywood to be exact. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Good. So tell us about your morning panel that you're on.
We did a panel. Matt Belloni, who formerly ran The Reporter, now has his own news service called Puck, moderated. It was Kevin Mayer, former Big Cheese at Disney, who now, along with his partner, created Candle Media, Blackstone, one of their big founders, one of their big investors, and Jessica Reif, who's at B of A, major media analyst. It was a little bit of the state of the business, covering some of the topics around, what's the new valuation around streaming. Because Netflix hit a few headwinds and because they've been the industry leader, a lot of stock prices have been dropping around the media space, specifically tied to big bets on streaming. So it's a little bit about what does it all mean with a mix of, is it better to be an independent right now or to be in a larger company? We're an independent, so of course we cherish kind of our position as the outsiders and the challengers. And a potpourri of what's on and what are you watching and where will it all settle out and what's the bottom, what's the top, and what's the medium.
What made you personally decide to go into our industry? Was it a certain television show that you watched, Kevin? Like, what was that moment of inspiration for you personally?
Well, look, in my house growing up, we were very constrained and limited to watching almost no TV. It would come in and out of the closet for like an hour at a time. So when we did watch television compared to our friends who had TV all the time, it was like such a treat. And I memorized all the commercials because you never might see it again. So I always grew up watching TV. We didn't really have, movies was a very rare thing. So TV would be something that we could afford. So I didn't plan on being in television, but when I did get the opportunity to work in TV, it was very natural because I'd grown up kind of coveting TV and wishing I could see more. So the forbidden fruit became, in essence, kind of the career trajectory. And I like the action of TV. There's deadlines, there's air dates, there's things that must be met. Features moves at a slower pace, and usually it's up to the studio when they want to release something. TV, you have to get that in by Friday because the show airs on Monday, let's say, at the latest. And that kind of activity is great. I have a kind of a short attention span, and I need that kind of activity or I get bored easily.
One thing that I noticed is that some of the series, instead of just releasing it all at once, they're kind of dripping it out now a little more slowly. How do you feel about that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm of two minds. Of course, when you love something and you have the time, you want to binge it. You want to just watch one after another. This has been documented. And Netflix started with that model, and they've stuck with that model. And I know the very first night that Orange is the New Black aired, they called with some percentage of people that had watched for 13 hours straight from the midnight before. And that was pretty exciting. Of course, then you have 364 more days or more to wait for your next batch. So other places do it weekly. I think Hulu was interesting on Only Murders in the Building. They released 3 initially to get you in. They're like a drug dealer on the street. And then they dole it out 1 a week after that initial 3. So they kind of hook you. And I think most shows need 1 or 2 episodes to actually get caught up in it enough to say, I want to come back. I think there's a lot of sampling. I'm certainly a sampler. I can't watch everything, so I try to watch 1 of everything. And it's, that first episode has to be amazing. Of course, the logic of pilots, which has always been so hard in the traditional linear environment, to make a pilot that accomplishes all the setup that you need and bring people back, very difficult. Usually in 2 or 3 episodes, you've created enough story and sowed enough seeds that people want to come back and see what they grow up to be. So I think every service is going to do it a little bit differently. And they'll calibrate. And the Hulu audience is used to seeing things weekly because much of their life cycle was spent repurposing broadcast fare, 1 episode at a week, or 1 episode per week. But now they're doing originals, and as I said, they're experimenting with what maybe we'd call a pod strategy of 2 or 3 at a time. So we'll see. There'll be some perfect science to it, and people will do it, and it might change by nature of the show.
Now, I know that lions like to roar, and so what is Lionsgate roaring about right now? What are you most proud of there?
Well, we have a slew of shows. We had 14 new shows picked up this year and 15 others renewed. So that's a great track record. In the broadcast space, we have a huge hit in Ghosts on CBS. We're thrilled to get a renewal on Home Economics on ABC and Welcome to Flatch on Fox. We're prepping a pilot right now for NBC with Susan Rovner and her team, which we're quite excited about. We can tell you more about that soon. And, 14 shows on Starz, our sister network, 6 on HBO Max. We just are in the middle of The First Lady on Showtime. Just doing lots of, really interesting things. And, it's exciting because they're quite different from one another. It's comedies and serious historical dramas, animated, R-rated Christmas comedies like Santa Inc. on HBO Max, and everything in between. And we work with so many interesting producers and partners, writers, showrunners, creators, directors. So every day is quite different. You could find yourself in a table read on like an animated comedy, or on something quite serious and quite dramatic and innovative. One show we're particularly proud about that was renewed, 2 on HBO Max, in fact, Minx, which is a fantastic show. Julia, about Julia Child and the birth of her television show and really the birth of public television as we know it in 1962, way back when in Cambridge. And Minx, which is about an aspiring feminist publisher who winds up creating an erotic magazine for women in the 70s. Those are on the same service. I mean, that says it all in my mind. That's fun. TV is such an amazing medium, and streaming, which is just an expansion of TV, that you can get a message out to millions and millions of people, which is, far more. I started in theater, and you can get a message out to like 90 people, or maybe 200. And TV can really exponentially expand that message and that communication, and people love great stories, and we want to tell them.
What was your first role in theater? I didn't know that about you.
Oh, no, I mean, I studied theater in college. I did some acting. I did more directing, really. Okay. And it's a fantastic art form, but it is small relative to impact, right? Yes. Now, when you get to go watch a great show on Broadway and then it travels, it goes around. So Hamilton will be seen by millions. Yes. And it was made a movie, so it's on Disney Plus as well. But it's a slower path to get that message out there, and I guess I'm impatient.
So we will be tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed our little visit. I'm Donna Drake. We've been visiting with Kevin, and we are at NATPE Hollywood, and it is 2022, and gosh, it feels good to be back.